Crazy history facts you won't learn in school. Hello and welcome to our channel. Today, we're diving into the depths of history to uncover some of the craziest, most fascinating facts that you probably didn't learn in school. From bizarre inventions to unexpected events, these stories will blow your mind and give you a new perspective on history. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Fact 1. The Great Emu War. Our first crazy history fact takes us to Australia in 1932. You might think of wars as conflicts between humans, but have you ever heard of the Great Emu War? Yes, you heard that right, an Emu War. After World War I, Australian farmers were struggling with emu invasions on their crops. The emus, large flightless birds, were destroying fields at an alarming rate. The government's solution? Send in the military. Soldiers armed with machine guns were sent to combat the emus. Despite their efforts, the emus proved to be surprisingly resilient, and the soldiers couldn't keep up. In the end, the emus won, and the government had to find other ways to protect the crops. Fact 2. The Dancing Plague of 1518. Next, we travel back to the year 1518 in Strasbourg, a city in modern-day France. That summer, a bizarre phenomenon known as the Dancing Plague took hold of the town. It all started when a woman named Frau Trophia began dancing uncontrollably in the streets. Within days, dozens of others joined her, dancing without rest for weeks. The authorities were baffled and tried various methods to cure the dancers, including music and open-air stages. The dancing continued for about 2 months, resulting in several deaths due to exhaustion and heart attacks. To this day, the cause of the dancing plague remains a mystery, though some theories suggest mass hysteria or ergot poisoning from a type of moldy bread. Fact 3. The Exploding Whale. Fast forward to 1970 in Florence, Oregon. This next story is both strange and somewhat comical. A 45-foot, A10 sperm whale had washed ashore and died, and the local authorities had to figure out how to dispose of it. They decided to use dynamite, thinking that the explosion would break the whale into small pieces that seagulls and other scavengers would clean up. However, things didn't go as planned. When the dynamite was detonated, large chunks of whale blubber were sent flying in all directions, damaging cars and property. Luckily, no one was seriously injured, but the incident became a legendary example of a plane gone hilariously wrong. Fact 4. The Great Stink of 1858. Now, let's talk about a smelly situation in London known as the Great Stink of 1858. During the summer of that year, the River Thames, which ran through the heart of the city, became overwhelmingly polluted with human waste and industrial runoff. The stench was so unbearable that it disrupted Parliament sessions and forced officials to take immediate action. Engineers, including the famous Joseph Bazalgette, devised a modern sewer system to redirect waste away from the river. This project not only resolved the Great Stink, but also significantly improved public health and laid the foundation for modern urban sanitation systems. Fact 5. The Beer Flood of 1814. Our next fact takes us to London again, but this time in 1814. Imagine a flood, but not of water, of beer. At the Moe and Company Brewery, a massive vat containing over 135,000 gallons of beer ruptured, causing a domino effect that led to the collapse of other vats. A tidal wave of beer flooded the streets, demolishing 2 houses and killing 8 people. While it sounds like a scene from a comedy, the beer flood was a real tragedy for those affected. It also highlighted the need for safer industrial practices and regulations. Fact 6. The Man Who Survived 2 Atomic Bombs. Now, let's move to a story of incredible survival. Tsutomu Yamaguchi was a Japanese engineer who experienced both the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki during World War II. On August 6, 1945, Yamaguchi was in Hiroshima on a business trip when the first bomb was dropped. Despite suffering serious burns and injuries, he survived and returned to his hometown of Nagasaki. Just 3 days later, the second atomic bomb was dropped on Nagasaki. Remarkably, Yamaguchi survived this bombing as well. He lived to the age of 93, becoming an advocate for nuclear disarmament and a symbol of human resilience. Fact 7. The Tunguska Event. Next, we explore a mysterious event in Siberia, Russia, known as the Tunguska Event. On June 30th, 1908, a massive explosion flattened an estimated 80 million trees over an area of 830 square miles. The explosion was later determined to be the result of a meteoroid or comet fragment bursting in the atmosphere. The blast was over 1,000 times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima, yet remarkably, no human casualties were reported due to the remote location. The Tunguska event remains one of the most powerful and mysterious cosmic events in recorded history. Fact 8. The CIA as acoustic kitty. In the 1960s, during the Cold War, the CIA embarked on a bizarre espionage project known as Acoustic Kitty. The goal was to use a cat equipped with electronic listening devices to eavesdrop on Soviet conversations. The CIA surgically implanted a microphone in the cat's ear and a radio transmitter at the base of its skull. The first test of Acoustic Kitty was a failure, as the cat was struck by a taxi almost immediately after being released. The project was eventually deemed impractical and abandoned, but it remains one of the strangest covert operations in history. Fact 9. Cleopatra's Time Machine. Let's travel back to ancient Egypt for our next crazy fact. Cleopatra, the last active ruler of the Ptolemaic Kingdom of Egypt, is often depicted in popular culture as a figure of romance and beauty. However, she was also a highly educated and shrewd leader. One of the lesser-known facts about Cleopatra is her fascination with timekeeping devices. She commissioned a water clock, also known as a clepsydra, which was an ancient timekeeping device that measured time based on the flow of water. This invention showed her interest in science and technology, a side of Cleopatra that is often overshadowed by her legendary romances. Fact 10. The War of the Stray Dog. Finally, let's talk about a peculiar conflict known as the War of the Stray Dog. In 1925, tensions were high between Greece and Bulgaria. A Greek soldier chased a stray dog across the border into Bulgaria, leading to a skirmish that escalated into a full-blown conflict. Greek and Bulgarian troops exchanged fire, resulting in several casualties. The League of Nations had to intervene to stop the fighting and negotiate a peace settlement. This incident highlights how even the smallest events can spark significant international conflicts. Fact 11. The Great Molasses Flood. In 1919, Boston experienced one of the most bizarre and tragic disasters in its history, the Great Molasses Flood. A massive storage tank containing over 2.3 million gallons of molasses burst, sending a 25-foot wave of sticky, sweet liquid through the streets at 35 miles per hour. The flood destroyed buildings, overturned vehicles, and tragically killed 21 people while injuring 150 others. The cleanup took weeks, and for years afterward, locals claimed they could still smell the molasses on hot summer days. Fact 12. Napoleon's Rabbit Attack. Napoleon Bonaparte, one of history's greatest military leaders, was once defeated by rabbits. After signing the Treaty of Tilsit in 1807, Napoleon organized a rabbit hunt to celebrate. His chief of staff, Alexander Berdier, collected hundreds of rabbits for the occasion. However, when the rabbits were released, they didn't flee in fear. Instead, they charged at Napoleon and his men. The rabbits, having been domesticated, saw the men as a source of food and swarmed them. Napoleon's party had to retreat to their carriages to escape the relentless rabbits. Fact 13. The Phantom Time Hypothesis. The Phantom Time Hypothesis is a theory proposed by German historian Heribert Illig, who claimed that a period of approximately 297 years in the early Middle Ages AD 614 to 911 was fabricated, and that the year is actually 1727. According to Illig, historical documents and events from this period were either misdated or invented. While widely discredited by mainstream historians, the theory raises interesting questions about the accuracy of our historical timeline. Fact 14. The Day It Rained Fish. On more than one occasion, the town of Oro in Honduras has experienced a phenomenon known as lluvia de peces, or rain of fish. This strange event typically occurs in May or June and involves fish raining down from the sky. Scientists believe that waterspouts, tornadoes that form over bodies of water, may be responsible for lifting fish out of the water and depositing them inland. The locals, however, see it as a miracle and celebrate it with an annual festival. Fact 15. The Great Boston Fire of 1872. The Great Boston Fire of 1872 was a massive blaze that destroyed 65 acres of downtown Boston, including 776 buildings. One of the most unusual aspects of this disaster was the role played by a piano factory. As the fire approached the factory, the heat caused hundreds of piano keys, made from ivory, to explode. The resulting sounds were described as a cacophony of eerie, haunting music. This surreal experience added a unique layer to the already devastating event. Fact 16. Operation Paul Bunyan. In 1976, a seemingly mundane task of tree trimming led to a major military operation known as Operation Paul Bunyan. The incident occurred in the Korean Demilitarized Zone (DMZ) when 2 U.S. soldiers were killed by North Korean forces while attempting to trim a poplar tree that obstructed the view between UN checkpoints. In response, the U.S. and South Korea launched Operation Paul Bunyan, deploying a massive show of force, including troops, helicopters, and bombers, to cut down the tree. The operation was successful, and the tree was removed without further conflict, showcasing the tension and absurdity of Cold War-era military standoffs. Fact 17. The Pig War. The Pig War was a border dispute between the United States and the British Empire in 1859, sparked by the shooting of a pig. The conflict took place on San Juan Island, located between Vancouver Island and the mainland United States. When an American settler shot a British-owned pig that was rooting in his garden, tensions escalated. Both nations sent troops to the island, but ultimately, the only casualty was the pig. The dispute was resolved peacefully, and the border was later determined by international arbitration. Fact 18. The Curse at Hope Diamond. The Hope Diamond is a stunning blue diamond with a notorious reputation for bringing misfortune to its owners. The diamond's history dates back to the 17th century when it was discovered in India. Over the years, it passed through the hands of various owners, many of whom met tragic fates, including financial ruin, imprisonment, and violent deaths. While the curse may be nothing more than superstition, the eerie coincidences surrounding the Hope Diamond have made it one of the most famous and feared gems in the world. Fact 19. The Battle of the Bees. During the Greco-Turkish War in 1919, a peculiar battle occurred in the village of Afyonkarahisar, Turkey. As Greek soldiers advanced, they disturbed a series of beehives. The angry bees swarmed both the Greek and Turkish troops, causing chaos and confusion. Both sides were forced to retreat, and the bees effectively ended the battle. This incident demonstrates how even the smallest creatures can have a significant impact on historical events. Fact 20. The Corpse Synod. In one of the most bizarre episodes of papal history, Pope Stephen VI conducted the Cadaver Synod in 897. During this macabre trial, the corpse of his predecessor, Pope Formosus, was exhumed, dressed in papal vestments, and put on trial for various crimes. The dead pope was found guilty, his papal acts were annulled, and his body was mutilated and thrown into the Tiber River. This strange event was part of a series of turbulent and violent power struggles within the church during the 9th and 10th centuries. And there you have it, another set of 10 crazy history facts that you won't learn in school. From peculiar wars to bizarre disasters, history is full of strange and fascinating stories that often get overlooked. If you enjoyed this extended video, please like, share, and subscribe for more incredible historical content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time with more amazing tales from the past.